Kind of felt like the Clinks' time in the sun had faded away a little bit there. He was all the rage for a little while, and then he got sort of tweaked back into relative sort of obscurity. But Lava are gonna run it, and I mean, I assume that that does have to be Kataro's hero. You really don't put the Clinks anywhere else, and we'll see what he can do. When the Clinks builds himself up, obviously you're not the monstrosity that Clinks was in its heyday on the professional level, but it is still going to be a lot of damage, and a hero that with the Death Pact is going to have a decent amount of HP as well against a Hustler's lineup that has control but doesn't seem to have much damage at the moment.
No, definitely not. And I don't know, it's not a great hero versus the Mars as well. Once you actually get into it, I think that is a very rough lane. Viper Clinks is going to be very obnoxious. Of course, both of them can just orb walk you. There's nothing that the Mirana can really do to win that trade. But at the same time, you're talking about the long term. You're talking about the fact that if you don't have a BKB, you're just going to get run down. And I really like this from D2 Hustlers, seeing another team valuing the Juggernaut versus the Tide. And what better a lane than versus Tidehunter Dark Willow? There's nothing that they can do once the spin goes down.
It's going to be exclusively trying to bully the Disruptor and trying to find farm for yourself. The Jug's just, it's going to walk it off, spin out of anything, and if he somehow does take significant amounts of damage, you've got the Healing Ward to just sort of get yourself back up, get that sustainability. So I mean, I don't really want to call it in the draft for that lane, but that feels like a situation where D2 Hustlers are not guaranteed to win it, but it's going to be incredibly hard to lose that lane.
Yeah, and it just means that Frank is going to need to be even more careful because again, it's the I want to say the second lane that Tidehunter just flat out loses, right up there with Monkey King. But yeah, D2 Hustlers actually banning out the Storm. They're really trying to make this mid pool incredibly thin, but at the same time, I think D2 Hustlers want another playmaker. They need someone who's actually going to be able to go out onto the map. But I also think that if they ban out the Tiny, other than Tiny for Lava, I don't really see their own hero because I think they need another initiator. They need someone to make plays around the map whenever this Ravage is done. And if they don't get someone, then I think they're really going to play this waiting game where you're going to be in a farm battle versus Yuma and a much more active lineup.
At this point, now that we've come down to it, and as you mentioned, Lava not really seeing too many blatant sort of mid options for them, ET, I gotta ask you, what is the sort of percent chance that we just see Leo Style actually take the Viper mid and they do some sort of fifth pick shenanigans with a position 5 support here?
The only problem with that is I don't think that you can pick Viper with full confidence going blind into the
Mm,
matchup. I think that would just be a little bit too scary. We could see them go for a hero like the Queen of Pain, but Queen of Pain sounds like it's just going to get burned versus Disruptor every single time you go for the blink. You're just going to get brought right back, and then you're dead. Then you don't get to play Dota. But aside from that, that's really been the only other mid laner we see teams value.
mm.
But the LC is different. We're gonna have to see who actually slots in on which hero because they could take this in a bunch of different directions now.
I think if we're looking at who sort of runs it, Frank's taken it to the offlane plenty of times, but Leo Style mid LC is an old thing, but it is a thing, and I don't know. To a certain degree, that LC pick, it now gives you a potential answer for some of this lockdown and a hero that can duel maybe through the Jug's spin, so you get a little bit less confident in the Jug's ability to just sort of walk away from fights if they are looking for it. But that is going to require, A, that the LC is in the mid position, because in the offlane, I'm not sure if you're going to have the farming rate to really do that consistently, and they are really going to need to be active with that LC, which is really where their lineup kind of fell apart the last time around. We didn't see them making too many moves, partially by design, but cannot be
Okay.
the case this time around as Hustlers will go in for the Razor. So now, well, now that
They're forcing
LC,
it.
boy, they're going to do it,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they have this flexibility. You do just put MGZ on the 5 Tide, and that's also not too weak of a lane. And they did get their BKB piercing disabled for the Jug. That being, of course, the duel coming from the LC, but Now you force your Viper into the mid lane. It's not a very good Viper game. All of these heroes, once they get on top of you, it is going to feel like he is going to struggle. There's a big reason why we haven't seen that Viper mid in a very long time. But that's also where I think Leo's style mechanically can definitely claw it back. I think he's one of the best mid laners in those first 5 minutes in the entire world. He's just incredibly gifted. But that's also where it's going to be up to Esk. I think Esk, if he doesn't throw that lane, it should be pretty easy for him. You just simply can't get last hits on Viper. You just get linked up, you poison attack him 5 times, he runs away, he has another 40 damage on you for another 7 seconds, and then you get half the wave denied underneath you. So it really is that bad, but they didn't really have any other choice here going versus last pick.
Yeah, they just did the best with what they had, but now so much for Lava feels like it has to go a certain way, right? The Clinks has to sort of get the drop on them, because if you show yourself early and a static link gets onto you, then you're done. All right, you just back off. If the Razor is there when you're dueling, then you get a long duration static link basically guaranteed. It just feels like Esk has to be accounted for basically at all times, and he needs to be either not in the fight or taken down quickly, otherwise things will turn very rapidly for Lava.
Yep, definitely, and they do the lava smoke up that we see them do every single game so far, but we're going to have to see how they play because they have another messy draft where it almost feels like D2 Hustlers, they have that agency again. They have their guaranteed plays where Monster hits level 6 after Flea decides to not play in his lane, and then suddenly he's going to rotate towards the mid lane, and that's where we're really going to see just how bad this Viper hero can be when you have so many spells to mess with his mobility. I think being able to pick up this disruptor is just killer versus those heroes, especially now that Leo style has been almost pigeonholed into taking it mid.
Yeah, so I don't know. As you said, Leo style, I mean, we know what he's capable of. He may just be so good that he can fight his way through it. We have seen some of those matches before turn counter to expectation, but this is going to be a rough one. In the meantime, Hustlers, they push their way forward, getting into the west side jungle, dropping down the sentry and the Ob. So they want the vision in the middle lane, and they do get the sentry down to block the camp, but I think moves may have been close enough to just sort of spot that out, so once they get their own sentries, this D-ward should not be too difficult for them. We'll have to wait and see, because without this side camp, well, life for the Viper gets even worse, right? Because maybe you don't do 100% of your sort of full damage against the Razor mid, but if he's able to use something like the Nether Toxin to just farm up some of these side camps, then you are going to be able to sort of pull a little bit of that back in your favor.
Really, I'm most interested to see what Leo Style actually ends up buying, whether or not it's just going to be the simple boots of travel into a BKB, as we've seen so many Lenas go for, or if he goes for something a little bit less active. He's doing a good job in mid.
Esk?
Yeah,
He is
nah,
taking so much damage.
No way.
Is he? Okay, he's gonna be okay, but wow, that... Oh, man.
That's exactly what he needs to do. He forced him off the first wave. Now that link damage is all coming back, and Esk, it's much more even whenever you can't approach the wave. And I think Esk not buying a salve is probably going to hurt him quite a lot in this lane now, because Leosta is level 2, and with Esk playing on such low HP pools, he can actually walk up to the wave and get a link. Leosta just wins.
I guess. I mean, that feels so strange. He's going to get the salve delivery out now, Ask Will, but if he actually wants a salve, he has to fully back off from the wave, because Leo Style's close enough. The second he would see that, he would just sort of charge in. Speaking of trying to charge in, though, Monster very nearly taken down in the bottom lane. Kataro and MJZ with a relatively straightforward maneuver there. They get the gush down, and Kataro just looks for damage, and they don't get the kill, but Monster is not really used to getting this damaged up this early on that Mars, and you see them trying to go in again onto Flea. This time, though, it might turn. There's going to be the spear into the arrow, and yeah, they weren't quite as well coordinated, not quite as well positioned there either, and maybe going a little bit too far forward on that one. I think they were anticipating Monster would be out of that fight for a little bit longer, but Monster was able to come back in, and they turned first blood in D2 Hustler's favor.
Yeah, they need to be more satisfied with that trade. Just get a little bit too greedy, of course. Doesn't hurt them all too much, but does give away a lot of time for Monster to get this pull. And of course, oh, nice from MJZ. Aggroed the range creep into the wave. So he actually kept that creep aggro going.
Yeah, so they're going to try and keep that under control. But again, we go back to this exact same scenario. Flea is doing Flea things. Rotated into the jungle, got himself a little bit of XP, allowed Monster just sort of sit here by himself and get just about, there we go, just about to level 3. So, well, it's just such a, I don't want to say easy setup. They make it look easy. It's really not quite that simple, but every time it seems like they do this. And Monster, I mean, what an incredible sort of advantage that you know you're going to have in this game, right? That you're just going to be allowed to get a solo lane, and your teammate is still going to be able to make plays like this, get his own, and maybe make rotations there as well. It just makes you feel so much more confident.
Yeah, and as soon as he hits level 6, of course, we're going to see him explode onto the map, and Monster has also avoided the danger zone. He has the Helm of Iron one coming out, and then suddenly this lane doesn't look too bad, but mid, oh,
Ooh,
Esk, he
the
doesn't have anything to
tower,
aggro to.
is he dead? Oh, only the one hit from the poison attack, so, I mean, Esk survives, but this lane basically just takes a complete reset. There's no bottle charges left on the Viper. Esk is also out of bottle charges, and look at Flea. Look at him go. If he could somehow get this arrow, he would still have to leap all the way in and try to finish it with right clicks, but he was looking for it. Got to admire the ambition, but Leo Style falls back. He gets the bottle refilled with the bounty. Same situation for Esk on the other side, and neither one of these two mid laners were willing to back down there, and Esk is now going to get himself the water rune, so that should give him a slight advantage. Leo Style, though, with the salve, feeling like he can push his way in, but now he's going to see that Flea is here. And that's going to make him think twice maybe about that aggression. He's still pushing onto the opposing side of the river, but I don't think he goes all in for any sort of fight, knowing that Flea is almost certainly going to be sticking around.
Yeah, but really, same thing is still been going on, where Leo Style is just doing a really good job of contesting Esk always. Ooh. It's like a little bit of a crazy fight.
Leo's in some serious trouble now. Flea comes in looking for the extra damage and the body blocking, and they do find it. Poison attack stack's not enough to kill off Esk, so Flea sticks around, helps get the kill. Esk is going to take a bit of an advantage in that middle lane, and all the while, your Mars in the off lane did have to actually take a bit of a step back there as he just TPs back into lane, but keeps himself alive, keeps himself finding experience. He's sitting on level 4 compared to Kataro, who is still a little ways ahead of him, but when Kataro hits level 6, nothing's really going to happen. I don't think we're going to see him looking for fights compared to Monster hitting 6, where he's going to start forcing fights.
Yeah, exactly. It's really just going to be more of a farm fest. MJZ, yeah, still needs to be careful, but Monster whiffed.
Arrow not hitting either, so Monster needs to get out of here. That Bulwark, though, going to be very effective, absorbing that damage and allowing him to fall back, but I think that's the first time, really, we've seen Monster get that far forward. Even in the kill that he and Flea found, they were still sort of operating at that halfway mark. So, starting to feel a little bit more confident for the Mars, but that time around, the confidence kind of got him in a little bit of trouble, but nothing he couldn't handle. Meanwhile, back over in the mid lane, Moose has rotated his way over. He doesn't have a point in the Curse Crown, unfortunately, so he will not have that guaranteed stun to work with. They just need S to move too far forward. As speaking of moving too far forward, well, Monster gets caught out, tries to fall back, but this time around, Kataro and MJZ are able to run him down for the kill. And now we have a DC coming out from Frank on the opposing side, and this is a very rough spot for this DC, because I don't think he really gets out. Even if he does reconnect here, the spins coming in, the disruptors TPing in with his glimpse up and online. It's only level 1, but he should still be in range to pull Frank back if he tries to make an escape.
Yeah, you really do wonder how Frank even got here, but I think he will just be going down more or less for free. Yeah, I think he is. I think he's just dead. But what can you do? But this top lane has been otherwise very successful for Frank. He's working on his armlet. He's getting it in a pretty decent fashion, but he's also just able to pretty efficiently trade up versus his opponent. Of course, the Dark Will did make an appearance in the mid lane, and Moose has been hovering around this area for quite a bit, but I think Frank is pretty dead to rights.
Oh, okay, there we go. Didn't matter. Thought he was going to go for the glimpse instead of the kinetic. Did not matter, as Yuma was still able to get in for the damage, and Frank will be taken down. So Hustler's able to get the kill there, but you take a look, ET, 6.5 minutes in, last hit-wise, I mean, look at how much lava we're getting in comparison to their sort of direct counterparts. The farming has been just spectacular for them to this point, whereas E2 Hustler's heroes, they have been able to find an extra kill or two, but other than Yuma, they're all kind of lagging behind.
Yeah, and I think it all comes back to Leo Style just rocking his lane. He just got that big advantage, and then suddenly the Razor doesn't want to be next to you, and there never has really been that comeback method aside from Flea's little plays. Flea's getting chased around though, but every single time Flea has left Monster, Monster has also been getting pushed back incredibly far. So I think Lava have definitely made some very good changes to at least their early gameplay.
They are maybe not quite getting the early kills or being as active as we've seen some other teams in this event, but they're playing the lanes in a much better position as Monster. He's going to get jumped in on. MJZ and Moose both come in to get the gush into that Bramble Maze, and Guitarro can just fire away with the Burning Barrage. Monster gets taken down. 1 point in Bulwark's not really going to be able to save him there. So exactly plays like this. This time they are actually aggressive enough to get the kill, but they're just recognizing, hey, we've got someone on the back foot here. They're sort of falling back to the tower. We can take advantage of that. And with some of those lanes being punished in that fashion, you see Leo Style, he's now free to just make his way into the jungle, start taking some stacked camps.
Yeah, and this is just going to be him accelerating, and it looks like the Boots of Travel will be his choice, and can only agree with it. Gets lucky on the rune as well. Unfortunate for Esk yet again. I think Esk, yeah, he's kind of just going for this Falcon Blade because when you fall behind on Razor, you really are in a little bit of an awkward position because you don't really provide all too much to your side lanes right now. That's where you would have loved your side lanes to actually meet up with you, but we'll have to see how they decide to get Esk involved. But this mid lane, it's all the action.
Bramble comes through. Leo doesn't want to push all the way forward, though. He is being a little bit wary here, so it's up to just Moose alone to get the damage for the kill. Not going to be able to do so. However, well, Lava were more objective focused. They get damage onto the tier 1. They force out that glyph, so that is going to make a sort of further secondary push onto the tower that little bit easier for them, but you see that push kind of melting away a little bit. The supports, at least one of them, rotated away. MJZ's coming in, but it looks like at this point he's coming in to just get experience because Leo Style is stepping back into the jungle. So they're not looking for the tower push quite that hard at this stage, but up in the top lane, you see Yuma. He's going to get hit up by the root. Frank, he's got the duel. He's going to look for it. The spin did come through, but obviously not protecting against the duel. Do they have the damage? Not for the win, but they may still find the kill. Someone needs to go up here to chase, though, and nobody's really going for it. Yuma's backing away, and Moose is just sort of trying to make sure Divine Llama doesn't get into that fight. So Yuma dangerously close to being taken down there, but he is going to be able to TP himself out. That does force him out of the lane for a little while, though. So in that regard, Frank still able to make something happen, but they would have liked the kill, and they certainly would have liked the early duel damage as well.
Yeah, and that's where Lava, a lot of their damage is going to be pretty slow this game unless it's coming from Kitaro, but it does feel like Frank, if he's able to snowball himself, has a very successful game set up right before him. All these heroes have very low natural armor. It's very easy for him to find a lot of these plays, and they're setting up on the bottom lane, but I wonder if Lava are even going to decide to have one of those big defenses, but Esk is got to be careful.
Raj is hitting him pretty hard. He goes for the link, but it's far too late. He just gets burned out, and well, Kitaro with the sneaky moves. Meanwhile, up top, Frank gets the duel. Moose gets the kill, but that doesn't really matter. The win goes to the LC. 2 kills across the map. They alleviate that pressure on their tier 1 down bot as well. But now, hopefully, okay, never mind. I thought he was looking for a rotation. Instead, he's just going to look for the D ward while Yuma takes a bit of a stacked camp there, but a little bit of a momentum shifter for Lava. And can Frank, I mean, he's still trying, but without any real assistance. This is such a slow push onto the tower, but the siege creep is here, so they are going to be able to hit it a little bit harder. The question is, are they ready for the fight that may be coming their way? Esk and Flea have smoked up. They're not making a direct line towards that top lane, though. It's sort of meandering their way through the river a little bit, but looks like they are going to be able to get into position. It's just going to be a matter of whether they can get off that static link, but before they get the chance, they lose the tower, and Divide, he's getting hit up. Static Storm comes through, though. That's going to delay any sort of potential dual play long enough for S to arrive. Moose, though, did try to go in for the Terrorize. That's going to immediately break that tether on the on the static link, but Frank's actually looking for the duel. He may actually lose it, but okay. Leo Style comes in, provides the backup. Oh my goodness, you do not want to lose a duel to a Disruptor. That would be embarrassing. But as it stands, Frank lives, gets the kill, gets the win. They find Flea as well, and now Kataro in the middle lane jumps in with MJZ. They drop the Ravage on top of that Juggernaut's head. He wasn't able to spin himself out as he had already used it. So they're able to find 3 kills, the tier 1 tower top, and now potentially tower mid as well, as Kataro's going to continue hitting it up.
Yeah, everything is just coming up Lava's way. It feels like they're just doing the map a little bit more efficiently than their opponents right now. And with Boots of Travel on the Leo style, he can be absolutely everywhere. Whenever they want to start getting him involved even more, it always feels fantastic when you have at least one hero to have Boots of Travel, because you get to sit them in this bottom lane. As soon as a fight breaks out on the top side, you pour it in, you get something done here. And that's where I think it was a good move from D2 Hustlers to try and get Esk a little bit more involved. But at the same time, he is full recovery mode. He has 50 last hits 12 minutes into the game. This is a much different Razor than I think he was really ready for, and really anyone was ready for. And he's just immediately going for the BKB. That's exactly what Sammy Boy was forced to in his game, but he's feeling the pressure right now.
But this smoke play's coming before his Falcon Blade's actually delivered to him, so he doesn't have that available, and they're still going to look for the play. MJZ does not have his ult here, so he is kind of vulnerable, but you see the TP's coming in. Frank wants the fight, trying to look for the duel, but the glimpse actually forces him away. They're still looking for it, though. They jump in. Kataro on the backline is able to take down Divine Llama. What else can they really do here? They need to look for some more targets. Kataro wants to push for something, but gotta be a little bit careful. He just got hit up by the dust, but now with Leo Style coming in, I don't think you want to be here anymore on the D2 Hustler side, but they may not have a choice. Frank back into the fight, gets the duel down onto the Razor. They're going to be able to lock him down and finish him off. And that is an appropriate use of that voice line. Things falling apart here for Hustlers a little bit as they are trying to fall back, but the damage has already been done. They've lost the heroes, and Monster may actually be taken down here as well. That Curse Crown is really going to put him in a tough spot. And Leo Style coming in, dropping down the Nether Toxin. Meanwhile, the barrage from the high ground isn't quite on point, so Monster's able to walk away, but now your Mars can't really be involved in this defense if Lava try to push in for the tier 1 tower.
Yeah, but you were successful in defending, at least for now, and Lava got them off of their own tier 2 tower, and Frank is just here to claim it up. And look at Kataro. He's looking for those squishy supports, but Moose
can actually get this. They get the arrow. That's a nice play. MJZ, though, in with the Ravage onto everyone. Yuma taken down first, and this one's looking a little bit busted. Monster's coming back in, though. He was able to heal up, but he doesn't have his arena yet, so they don't really have that ability to necessarily force the fight. They're still looking for it, but now the duel comes in. They're going to lock Monster down, getting in onto him. They drop down that Nether Toxin under his feet, and Monster, he gets forced out of the fight the first time. He gets taken down the second. Now Flea forced to live up to his name and flee from Kataro. Will he actually be able to get out, though? Kataro's just going to run him down. The right clicks are there. And D2 Hustlers, well, looking like they're taking a little bit of their own medicine here. This stat line in terms of the kills, sort of the opposite of what we saw in Game 1 in Lava. And they may actually look to continue this. They've got 2 heroes smoked up. Yuma's pushed his way forward mid, but I don't really know if they want this play because they don't have the Ravage and nobody's really sitting close enough to initiate. Frank has the blink, but you already see him rotating away, and oh, they just scanned. They know someone's here, and it's Esk as well. If they could find this kill, that would be absolutely huge. Frank needs to be able to get that blink off in time. Does blink forward, does get the duel. Yuma is going to be here to try and help, but I'm not really sure that that's going to be enough to matter. Esk is still dropping low. Not able to finish him off just yet, though, and now the Glimpse is actually going to pull that LC back into a static. And, well, okay. The Omni Slash comes in. Honestly, I think if they'd have just sort of stuck the kill there, they would have gotten it, but they were thinking if we stick around to really go all in for this kill, we may end up losing 2 heroes, but ET, they end up losing those exact 2 heroes anyway.
Yeah, that was honestly pretty poorly played from them. Of course, they missed the Cursed Crown initially, but they don't have that really easy way to get on top of him, and they don't have the vision. If he had an Observer Ward to place on Moose there, then I think they make that play every day of the week, but now mid lane, the collapse.
And he's not getting out of this one, but the reinforcements are coming, and now they are leaving. Glimpse is going to get Leo Style out of there. The duel was still thrown onto Yuma, though, and with Kataro in for the bonus damage, they do take Yuma down. They finish off Monster as well, so Leo Style didn't even need to be there. He threw down another Toxin. That was his contribution, and it was enough. They find 2 kills. They're going to get a third because Flea didn't have the ult for another second or two and didn't have any leap charges either. So Well, just when you think maybe Lava have stumbled a little bit, maybe that misplay is going to get D2 Hustlers back into it, Lava shut it down immediately, and they're actually still fishing for kills. They've gotten in onto Devi. Glimpse is going to get one hero away from him, but the cores come in, and they're actually just going to wait. So Frank, actually, he has no duel, so this doesn't matter. They're just going to get it as quickly as they can. Leo Style finds the pickoff, and Lava just immediately reasserting control.
Yeah, and this gold deficit is starting to really affect everyone. Esk is still looking for that BKB, but you look over at Kataro. Kataro's going to have a full Scotty soon, and then what do? You don't run at the clinks with Scotty, you just die. That kills your healing ward play as well. It feels like the game is barreling out of control. They need to establish some more control in their own jungle. Look at how dominant Lava's vision is right now, while Devi has just had no time. He has been sitting behind so many of his heroes and usually getting killed because he's around those heroes that there hasn't been any place for him to place any of these observer wards. And anytime they show, it's just 4 or 5 Lava heroes running at you every single time. It's a complete role reversal.
The Moose has just been all about the offensive warding, right? I mean, in terms of wards on their side of the map, there is a sentry here near the middle lane.
There it is.
Oh, they got the duel. Devi. Well, sorry about it. There's really nothing he could do there. Just walks into it, and I mean, that is what this vision really does for them. They control so much of D2 Hustler's map that you actually see their cores are hanging out in the south side jungle, trying to push out the bottom lane, things of that nature, because that's the only option that they have available to them. Is Yuma going to get stunned up here in that south side, but Moose is really just acting as a distraction. The entire rest of his team are trying to push down the middle lane. The Glyph is going to be there defensively from D2 Hustlers, one coming out from Lava as well, but the job has been done. They have forced that out, they forced some rotations, and now Kataro, I mean, he wants to go in here. Divide, that's not where you want to be. He's not even going to get the D award here. He'll be hit up and taken down. His sentry wiped out instantly, and I mean, it's one thing to just be outwarded because your opponent just does a better job than you, but at this point, he doesn't even get the opportunity to fight back, right? You see, the second that sentry goes down, he's jumped in on, so it's not a matter of your ward's placement versus your opponent's, it's just he can't even get into the jungle to try and do anything about it.
No, absolutely nothing you can do. Now they get to appropriately respond to this split push a little bit by just boots traveling around the map. They do have a pretty nice play here onto Moose and bottom. If Monster can somehow find the initiation, then maybe they can get something done with this Mars, but Monster has had a relatively cold game. Really not too many plays coming from him, and I think that's where this team is kind of started to grind to a halt here. Moose is just going to barely walk up. That's another, oh, nice field, but might not be the dual win, but
man.
got it. There you go.
Moment of courage. What an ability. Proc in there to get him the win, and yeah, it was close. Dalai Lama, I think he dies no matter what there, but if he could have avoided the dual loss, that would have been a little bit better for him, because Frank, I mean, he really is turning into more and more of a damage dealer. It's not just the initiation now. He's up to plus 80 on that dual win damage, so you're going to start having to deal with him in the same sort of vein as Kataro and Leo Style, who, by the way, are taking Roshan for free. So, Aegis into their hands. Meanwhile, Moose, well, he's actually just going to act as the bait here. Flea and Yuma tried to go in, but now they're immediately on the run. Yuma's kind of still acting like he wants to go in. With Esk here, they may try for it, and okay, they do get it. Long range arrow connects. Leo Style now in some trouble. They get down a very long duration static link too, so Frank and MJZ TPN, but I'm not really sure they want the fight at this point. That is a very well executed hit and run for D2 Hustlers, but they forget about the run part. That is not good. S gonna get jumped in on. Frank wins the duel. Omnislash still takes him down though, so Yuma's at least able to trade things out, but now Kataro, he's coming in. Can they rally the troops here? Are they gonna look to fight, or do they just back themselves away? It looks like it will be the latter. Flea gets out. Devi, not gonna be quite as fortunate, so Kataro will take him down, but the cores at least fall back. That's going to still be a bit of a win for the D2 Hustlers side, but you see Moose TP's in. They don't want to let these heroes go. And, well, they can't catch Yuma, but they make it Monster. First crown applied. Buell Scepter is going to, well, be a little bit mistimed, considering it was Moose who threw both of those out, but it really doesn't matter. Between the Bedlam damage and Kataro going with the right clicks, they still find Monster.
Yeah, they're still just running at their opponents. Of course, Kataro having the Aegis, there is no way he can die. However, Leo Style, if he's not too careful, he could get taken out by himself in the top lane, but I don't think Lava were really quite aware of how many of D2 Hustler heroes were in the bottom lane. But as soon as that happens, it's not like D2 Hustlers really were able to fix their warding problem at all. They still have all of this control that Lava can just walk back into.
They do throw down a little bit of a sentry ward here. They get knobs up in some places, so if someone actually comes over to D-ward, they can take some of that away, but until they do that, yeah, as you said, they don't really address the root of the issue, and looks like they may not have an opportunity to before this fight breaks out. Kataro wanted to push his way forward. That's a very nice play from Divide to try and break it up as Frank dangerously close to flee, but everyone's able to fall back. They even hit Kataro up with the glimpse to get him away as well, so it is a very well-executed retreat from the D2 Hustlers side, but now your question is, everyone... Ooh, okay. Very nearly missing out there with the TP, but everyone was able to get away. Now what do you do? Because you have a bit of a group up near this east side jungle. Do they look for some sort of fight? They've got a smoke up on Device, so they could look for it, and they've got most of the ults. Omni is about 10 seconds away, so they could smoke now, and by the time they made contact, I think they'd have that ult back up, but they really don't want that kind of aggressive maneuver right now. You actually see them splitting up a little bit, which is a problem, because here comes Monster looking for that fight. They're going to jump in onto Esk. The Scotty will slow him up. Frank is looking for the duel, doesn't get it. Nice glimpse play from Devi, as Esk will look to TP out. And they do manage to get him away. Devi, will he pay for this move, though? Not really. He gets out as well. So, D2 Hustlers just really dodging fights left and right, not allowing themselves to get caught. But now Lava say, okay, you know what? Enough of this. If we can't find the fights, let's push for objectives. They take the tier 2 mid. They've still got the Aegis for another minute and a half, so if they can't force the fight, we're going to go for the high ground. And they've got a DD up on Clinks as well, so this tier 3 tower is in some serious trouble.
Yeah, Kataro can just siege, and there's really nothing that anyone on D2 can do as soon as he tries to go for that link. Now, that is a nice glyph. Ideally, what would happen here is they have a sentry out here so Divine can actually get the glimpse onto the Clinks as soon as the rest of the lava reinforcements do disengage. But I think D2 are also just adopting the split style. They just need to make as much space as they possibly can. Please try and... Oh, the cast range. What a talent.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's definitely very fair. Extra cast range on that duel. So Frank able to lock it down, gets the win, and now Yuma and Monster, I mean, there's no longer the threat of the duel, so they are going to feel a little bit confident, and very confident after that play. They just turn around and they blow up moves, knowing Frank, he literally has no way to lock us down. So let's get this kill, and now we need to get the hell out of Dodge. The TPs are coming in onto the outpost. I'm not sure they make it out. Frank's going to blink forward again, trying to just sort of keep these heroes in range. Good spear, though, for the knockback. I believe that's going to allow Yuma and Monster to escape, so... well... overall, that doesn't go too poorly for them. They get a support kill, they keep their cores safe, they buy a little bit of time, and now... well, now they go for the smoke play. But they don't have the arena, so this is just going to be down to, I guess, dropping the Static Storm onto someone, but... who could they find? If they get vision on Kataro, that would be a big one, but they still need... no, they don't. The Aegis is just now going to time out. And MJZ blinking forward, Ravages down, Devi gets locked in place. Esk, oh my god! The duel locks him down. Kataro and Frank have more than enough damage. Esk is just not tanky. Hasn't had the chance to build it. The BKB was really the only thing he had for his own durability, and as we saw, that really did not matter.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the biggest problem, and when this Clinks hero was really just a little bit better, if you get these skeleton archers set up, this Aghanim shard, it is impossible to fight in these areas. He has the good 20 talent as well, so that Burning Barrage is going to do even more, but you overextend just a little bit, but that was also a fantastic duel from Frank. If he doesn't go for that, then maybe you're a little bit more defensive on Kataro, but at the same time, you've got a BKB on this Clinks now coming out as soon as he gets in just maybe 1 or 2 more creep waves. Then how are you going to die in this game? You're going to need to be getting killed by what feels like Yuma's damage, but Yuma doesn't have damage. He's had to go for the Scotty build to try and play up on the Viper, and
Frank.
top.
He's just feeling himself right now. He may just get this win straight up. Nope, the arrow clutch play from Flea into the spear stun, and... I mean, Yuma, I think you owe your butt a drink there. Flea just pulls his ass out of the fire. Yuma was dead to rights without that spear, or arrow stun to break it up.
And more? It's not bad.
Esk, long duration link. Monster comes in for the rebuke. Spear comes in for the stun. Arrow from Flea hitting onto Kataro. That leads into the static storm. Omni Slash now coming through. Kataro trying to survive. BKB just delivered, but he's got to switch it into the inventory, so it's still got that cooldown. But now Yuma, little bit too far forward. Leo Style's able to slow him up long enough. They'll find the kill, and that is going to be the end of the aggression for D2 Hustlers. But to be honest, DT, even with the loss of Yuma, that fight I still think goes well for them. They pick up the supports. They took down Frank in the top lane. Considering how far behind they are, that has to be considered at least a partial win for them.
Yep, you unfortunately didn't win that fight with Ravage expended. That's going to be coming up in another 20 seconds here, but you got some important kills across the map, important XP kills across the map. Everybody is so level starved on the D2 Hustlers side that really a lot of their damage coming from their spells isn't being all too felt right now, but I think a few more plays like that and they can definitely crawl it back. The only problem is that the game is about to refocus on that pit, and how do D2 Hustlers actually get into the pit? It's all about Monster in a stadium, but that just feels so impossible at this stage of the game. That was also what felt like a 3v5, that they also pretty handedly lost still. Oh, they're going?
They get the spear stun down. The LC dropped low, follow-up arrow. Very nicely done there, and Frank, well, he's just trying to do a little bit too much, I think. But Kataro, well, he's pushing forward. The Curse Crown connects, but not going to be enough to really force that secondary fight. Kataro now glimpses back into the kinetic field. They don't have a static storm, though, so I don't really know if they want that. Yeah, they're just backing off. That's maybe one fight too many, but look at Yuma. He's wrapping around. He does have a Scotty. That smoke play immediately popped MJZ. Ooh. Close call, blinks out. Monster, though, in some trouble. He gets hit up by the Viper Strike. That's going to force out his BKB. Even the whip coming in from Flea to try and get him away, and Monster, okay, for now at least he's going to live, but there's a problem. Esk is going to get hit up instead. Glimpse pushing back those damaging heroes, though, that will allow the Razor to make his retreat. But it felt like Lava had sort of overstepped there, right? They pushed too far forward. Frank gets picked off. You think, okay, that's going to be the end of the aggression. They'll back off and try to reset. Instead, Lava keep playing forward. They don't obviously go in and full-on force the fight, but they also prevent D2 Hustlers from being in a position to do anything in response. Although now, Tobias is going to throw down the Static Storm. If they can get this kill onto MJZ, he may not be worth a crazy amount of gold, but you've now sort of staggered a little bit of these respawns because Frank is coming back in, but they'll be coming back into a lineup that doesn't have their Tide and doesn't have the Ravage.
Ooh.
Oh, boy. Moose. Spear. If that spear hits, maybe they go in for it. Now they got to run because Frank is in. The duel will connect, but, well, that E-Blade is really just going to break that up. Frank's now getting hit by the Omni. Frank's dropping low. They are looking for this fight, but with Kataro in there, Esk has got to find some way out. He's going to look for the TP. Does he have enough HP to make it away? Yes, he does. So Frank falls, Esk falls back, and you're seeing Lava not able to definitively force these fights in the way that they wanted. And to go back to that sort of previous point, if MJZ's there with the Blink Ravage, then they can take that engagement on their terms. Without it, Hustlers had the opening.
Yeah, I think Lava just stray a little bit too far away from their high ground vision, and Yuma still in a little bit of trouble here. He does have to walk out, but that's another very favorable trade for D2 Hustlers, and I think Lava are making these engagements happen because there really isn't another objective on the map for them to take. With Roche only respawning in 40 seconds here, we'll probably see them venture towards that left side of the map, try to get that outpost back under their control, but that's a lot of time and a lot of successful fights that the stadium gets placed. Kataro isn't in it, so he can't deal any damage. And then he's not using his BKB early because he knows he's going to need to save it versus Mirana and Disruptor. So they're not getting that engagement on Lava. I think Frank, like you said, is trying to do a little bit too much. If he just sat himself down, avoided those 2 deaths, finished his BKB, we're probably looking at a very different game here. But they're definitely trying to shore up a few of their issues. I just don't know if it's going to matter if they don't get the second Roche.
And Roshan now respawning, and there was a burning R&B skeleton in there that I believe was timed up correctly to see it, so well, it doesn't matter. Frank just TPs, or blinks in rather, so they've got the vision now. Lava will make their way over, and if you're D2 Hustlers, you're a little bit too far away to mount a response because they're trying to go for a high ground push, which someone from Lava kind of had to TP back to defend. It is going to be Moose who gets into position. They'll throw down that glyph as well. Leo Styles now in, using the Viper Strike onto Yuma. That's going to force the Moonlight Shadow. They need to be able to get the Juggernaut back here and wait out that ult. They will do so successfully, but it means Flea is going to have to be sacrificed. They will leave him behind, but if everyone else TPs out, oh, Oh, uh, mm, I, oh, it hurts, ET. It just, it's so painful. But the Ravage misses onto the hero who had already TP'd out, and the worst part about that, it would have hit Esk if he were about 2 steps forward. The Razor was TPing out a little bit further to the east with no BKB active, so you end up missing on 2 heroes, but, well, they recover, they get into the pit, they'll take Roshan still, so even with the whiffed Ravage coming through, you still have a pretty sizable advantage here to make this next push.
Yeah, they get to push into the top lane now. They get to do whatever they want. It's very unfortunate because it is that long of a cooldown that I don't know if they're going to immediately look for that pressing for the win play, especially because they've got a full Daedalus about to be finished up on Kataro. But at the same time, that is still a pretty big deficit that D2 Hustlers have to play against. It's another Aegis. It's another opportunity. If they can wait out this Aegis, then things are looking a little bit brighter here. But they really need to do a good job. If only they knew how separated Katara was for just that slim moment. But unfortunately, no Dispel on Flea. Yeah.
Quickly going to be able to take him down there as MJZ gets the kill. But there's going to be the response. But look at that. The press the attack, providing that momentary magic immunity. It doesn't really matter much, though, because the damage is still there, so moves will fall, but because they need that extra second or two to go after that Dark Willow, it means they can't really focus on anyone else, but they're still pushing their way forward. They're going to take down the healing ward. That's a nice play, and that's going to make them feel a little bit more comfortable here as they push in for the tier 3 tower. Do we see any sort of response from the Hustlers' side? The Mirana's dead, but could buy back, and at this point, well, at this point, I don't really know what the Mirana buyback does. The ult's back up, so maybe they could sneak in for a fight, but you see the sentries already being sort of thrown down here, so they're ready for that potential move, and I think that gives D2 Hustlers really just no options other than letting this Rax go.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they use their most important tool for defending against this Clanks. If they can split the fight with the arena, then they can look for an engagement on the high ground, but they just blew it for a Dark Willow kill. And Lava immediately recognized that they don't have that protection anymore, and there's no opportunity for them to catch the Viper out.
They're going to smoke Esk. He just finished off a refresher, so you have that sort of double eye play. Get both Eye of the Storms active, try and push in for that damage, so they're going to look to make this happen. Monster, how far away is he? He's still 15 seconds out from the arena, so do you really want to take this fight without the Arena of Blood? That's so much of your lockdown. Look at that extended cast range. That's just absolutely ridiculous. Yuma gets locked down. He doesn't have any gold for his buyback right now, so really the smoke play, it's done. D2 Hustlers cannot really afford to fight without the Juggernaut, so they have to fall back, but since they still don't have the Jug, they also can't mount any defense. They're going to lose that lane. Monster does try to make a push, though. There's going to be the Arena into the Spear, into the Static Storm. They take down Frank first. Kataro taking a hell of a lot of damage now, but Esk, he's got to be careful. Even with the Static Link taking some of that damage away, he has to deal with Leo. Not going to be able to do so, as Esk will fall. Now Flea dropped low as well. One more hit will finish him off, and MJZ comes in for the Ravage. Locking down Divine Llama. Triple kill for Leo Stalin. There's the GG. They still don't have the Jug, and there was no buyback on the Razor either, so they'll throw in the towel.
Yeah, that was really clean. That was very well executed. It was the complete opposite of what they did in the previous game. I want to put even more credit over towards that Tidehunter hero. Yet again, the Tide just wins. I think this Tidehunter, of course, moved over to the position 5. It was some nice little tricky plays, of course, talking about the reduction in the flexibility in their draft whenever they open with Viper Tide. It just shouldn't work. And I think really the beginning of the end was when they go for this Esk Razor, they feel confident about it, and then Esk just could do nothing. Leo's style with his mechanics in the mid lane just ruined him. He just played those first 2 waves so well that Esk could no longer play Dota for, what, until the 4-minute mark where Flea comes and then he saves him on the water rune. It just was a terrible situation, and one that Monster was not even able to fix because, what, you're going to relocate your Mars from the bottom lane, who goes for the armlet first, who doesn't get his Blink Dagger until 20 minutes into the game, and then you try to kill a Viper who is completely balled out of control. It just was an incredibly unfortunate circumstance because they pick it knowing it's a counter pick, but the play just isn't there. And I think that's also where Kataro, I mean, man had, what, a 12... I don't want to say a 12-minute Scotty because it's not true, but a 17-minute Scotty is pretty ridiculous. And once he had that, you're in that nightmare situation where, what does my Razor do now? He runs into the middle of the fight to try and get a static link on a Clinks who has what 3 or 4,000 more net worth than me, and then I immediately get dueled by Frank, who is absolutely on point this game. It was just a completely different lava than we saw the first time around.
Yeah, I felt like in the first one they just get sort of taken by surprise, whereas this time around, more of what we're used to seeing. And we saw the problem started right at the start of the game. That first play mid, even you and I, ET, we were saying, okay, no, Esk is fine, right? Like, Leo Styles going to stop. He'll back off. He's not going to keep pushing and get this much damage in. We assumed that. Esk assumed that. The only person who knew that Leo Style wasn't stopping was Leo Style himself, and the Razor just takes too much damage. He didn't have the salve immediately, so you get taken out that little bit, and it felt like that should not have been the defining moment of, okay, now Leo Style wins the lane, but that's all it really takes. Leo Style's just that good.
Yeah, and it's even the little swap ups. Like somehow in this very strange setup, you end up getting Clink's Tidehunter as a lane, and then they even struggle down there where typically Flea and Monster get away with murder in their off lane. They just get to ignore you, and Monster gets his level 6 6 minutes into the game, and Flea's level 4 somewhere around, and then takes the mid lane. But because of how bad mid went, then Flea has to rotate. Then Flea isn't with Monster. Then Monster eats a few too many deaths before his Helm of Iron Will comes out, and then Flea also starts to become a target. And I think that's where they just kind of tried to play the same game twice, and Lava didn't let them.
Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if you're D2 Hustlers, you won the first game. You take a 1-1 split here. Points on the board is really the name of the game in these group stage runs. So both teams going to have to be happy with what they manage to put together here. So our first series is now done, and we are going to be moving on. We move on from the former Thunder Predator lineup to the current Thunder Predator lineup, as Thunder Predator will be in action against Black and Yellow for our next series. So we are going to be getting that one underway relatively soon here, right on time, actually, schedule-wise. So we'll get those two teams into the lobby, and we'll be moving on to that second series in just about 5 to 10 minutes. So we'll be back for the start of Thunder Predator versus Black and Yellow.